All right, so we go back to what is better, okay, if you're doing good, to condemn or forgive, but tell the truth about something as well, or lie about it. Now, here's the problem you might have if you're on this planet with someone and there's another person who's not like you but doing the opposite of you and trying to trick people into doing the silly things. Like have sex with your wife when you're invited over to a dinner party or something. Right? And you get you drunk or something and you gets you to sleep with his wife or something, which is kind of off the wall. But anyway, I know. And then blames you for what happened, right? Because that sounds like what happened with Jesus and Satan, but on day 4. Mm-hmm. Right. Now, we're made in someone's image and likeness. Could that be Christ, the firstborn of every creature? Mm-hmm. But Adam wasn't made till day 6. And day 5, God's making the sea animals to a certain point, and then day 6, he makes the rest of the land animals, and then he makes Adam. Right. Now, you might could um, talk about it in more detail, like Moses tried to do in chapter 2, and then in chapter 3, you say what you think happened to make man fall. Mm-hmm. This is your opinion, though. Mm-hmm. Right, right.
Christians, and others lived and worked side by side in peace. But during World War II, the city was brutally occupied by the Nazis, and Vilnius's once thriving Jewish life was decimated. Its citizens withstood an even longer reign of paranoia and brutality during the Cold War under the Soviet
This is in
occupation.
Lithuania,
Given this backdrop, one might be
past
surprised to
and
learn
present.
that today, Lithuania.
Now, see, when I was growing up, here's what I had to do: go to school, exercise after school, watch TV from 8 to 11, and that's it. Those are my habits before I joined the military. I would hang out with my friends on the weekends and we would go to the movies or out to eat. If we ate pizza, we put in so much money for it, right? And we would all pay for our portion, right? I know. Again. Or we go out to the skating rink and try to pick up girls sometimes, right? Right, perfectly normal during the 80s, right? Mm-hmm. Now, it's not like roll bounce with Bow Wow, but it's similar, Mm-hmm. That's what we had to do on the weekend. Mainly we were driving around because the nearest town was Statesboro or Savannah that even had anything like that, or go to the mall and walk through the mall. I know. But what I'm worried about, right, is you're messing with the girls that I want sex with it, right? Whoever it is. But when I'm looking for a girlfriend, right, not trying to have sex with her, mm-hmm, but trying to be the whole package, right? See, when you meet someone, you're supposed to take it in stages. Yes, I know that. But I've been having one night stands, like when I got into the Navy, right? And again, women are just having sex with me all over the place, right? And I'm not arguing with it, right? I'm doing it too, right? Now, I was taught that Christians don't do that. But that's the first century's Jewish interpretation of the law of Moses when Jesus was coming up himself. Now, there's a murky passage about a wedding in Canaan, and there's a bridegroom there, but we don't know who this bridegroom is. But Jesus and his disciples went to the wedding. Right? Again, this is after Jesus was baptized, and they were trying to see if he was the Messiah or something. Right? Now, that involves your perception as well as who Jesus really is in being the Messiah of Israel. I know. Now, some of the things described in the book of Isaiah, which is where you get the main prophecies, were happening. Like the deaf and lame and sick and leprous and people like that were being healed all over the place. Right? And they were also coming out to hear Jesus, about 5,000 one time and then 4,000 the other. Right? Now, here's the point, though. But how big are the armies of Rome? See, that's who you gotta fight. If you're the Messiah like David, right? Well, and David was also a finicky man. If you weren't on his side, he had to fight and kick your ass. Being that he was the next king in line to the throne, according to Samuel, who was the prophet at the time, right? And made King David the king, right? Over Saul. But it took a while for David to even get the kingdom from Saul, because other drama was going on in both Saul's life and David's. The first thing they dealt with, though, and met each other, it had to do with Goliath. And it goes on from there to tell you about the life of King David. But every short story has a gap. There's more to it than the author told you. Right? If you're making it historical. Especially then. Or is this a moral tale trying to get people to live a little bit better? Because in one of the things of David, it involves a woman named Bathsheba who was bathing naked, like in the bathing suit here in America, or if you were in friggin' Spain, where women can go topless, maybe not bottomless, but topless, and things like that. Well, like I said, we're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. Where are we? The Mediterranean Sea. They look at nudity and nakedness different than us. This is my second tour and you're first, right? Anyway. Now, mainly my sex partners are here in America, right? Or American women, right? I even met a girl named Istanbul in Italy, and they brought me to their house and brought me back to the ship. That's all I know. Now, did we do something? I don't know. I don't know. But we went to the bathroom. She showed me where the bathroom was, if that means anything. But I don't think we had sex. But again, we could have. It's just a tale. That really happened when I went to Italy. But this time we went on the other side of the boot. Or where there's, I forget the port, but it was along the, the boot facing you part. Not the behind the boot. It's in front of the boot. But anyway. Alright, so we get there. First, and then we go to Rhoda, then Italy, and then we go to Palma. And this is all within the first month of our tour. When we left in March, right? Right? By April, we're in Palma, which I think is when I met her. Alright, but we've already been to 2 ports before that. After that, both our ships go to Sicily. Then we go to Greece, I think. And then we go to Israel for 2 weeks. Wow. And again, that's unusual. So it's unusual. There she is again. But again, that's the point. I'm a normal heterosexual man, right? I'm not all cut up on religion anymore. Why? Because people are using the Bible to control other people. Kind of like with the movie Denzel Washington did, right? Yeah. What was that? The Book of Eli? Right. That book can give you good ideas or bad ones, right? And again, if you read it wrong, or you read it right, or you read it differently than someone else, you can form a totally different opinion, right? If you're reading it more than someone else, right? Too. It's the whole point. And the thing about any book, if you half-ass it, you're not going to understand what it's even saying, right? Now, like I said, most pastors teach you things from the Bible that make sense to them. Anything that don't, they ignore. Or seal. Or even won't try to understand it. Right. But there again, I have this weird dream when I'm 12 going on 13 about a throne with a bright light shining from it. And I don't know if I'm the only one to have it or not, but I told my Sunday school teacher about it, and she acted all weird. She wouldn't tell me what it meant. She asked me if I had been reading the Bible a lot, but that's what you do in church, silly. Or did I eat something unusual? Well, not that I know of, no. Right. But then again, someone else, if I tell that dream to them, might see it differently than me because of how they were brought up in their church. Right. Exactly. I know. And they're misinterpreting the dream. Right. Then, and again, all I'm pointing out here is, hey, wait a minute, it says all this, right? We're not even looking at that in my church when I was growing up. It says all things about rape, says things about premarital sex, that you can do it if you go get the father's permission afterwards, or after the sex, not before. But Paul's contradicting it. Just as the scribes and Pharisees were contradicting the law of Moses with the mother and father issue, where you're supposed to take care of your mother and father, not just stick them in a nursing home, which is kind of what they developed. The idea of the nursing home comes from the Bible, by the way, where you find a home for your parents and put them in there and they take care of them for you, right? When that's your job. According to the law of Moses, you take care of your family in their old age. But another thing about the law of Moses, it says if the girl is not betrothed and you meet her and you hit it off and you have sex, you can go to her father and ask his permission to marry. That's called premarital sex, as long as you intend to marry the girl. Okay? Yes. That's how you would look at that. Now, the problem is, though, most guys can say, I love you to the girl, and next thing you know, they're having sex with her, and she's got a baby on the way, and then they abandon her. Because you're not telling them the scripture in the Bible. You're coming from Paul in the New, who's telling you from the start, wait a minute, before I say this, I'm not getting this from the Lord. You're not listening then after that either. It's regarding their virgin daughters. And how to deal with a suitor or someone who wants to marry them. And that's what it's all about. Okay? Should they keep their the virgin daughter, or let her marry? Well, again, you can't go to Paul, a New Testament preacher, to ask him such a sensitive question. But at the time, guess who determined who their daughters married? The father. That's another point. Now, the girl can also have sex with somebody, right? And the father reject the person, and then he has to pay her dowry, which, like I said, at the recent salon incident, it could be just 2 nail jobs, which would be over $70, or $66 or something like that. 68, somewhere in there. 38 and 38, whatever that would be, right? Plus the change in the tip. I even tipped him $3. Like I did the girl. But again, people read the Bible, though, like they're God and earth. And what you teach them, okay, pastors, is the problem. You're making your congregation so misinformed about what the Bible actually says. And John tells you why in Revelations. What's called the 7 seals. Right. The 7 seals has to do with information in the Bible that, according to Isaiah, the men even of his day did not believe his report of what he was trying to say. And he goes so far as to talk about kings with breasts, using the word Chad there. Now, he also talked about kings and queens being your nursing fathers and mothers. And of course, right, I'm not saying that either. But here he goes specifically to the king, right, and uses the word associated with the woman's breast, right, and yet does not use the word for queen, which is used earlier. Which means he's saying something different here. Now, I've been looking into something called hermaphroditism because I heard about the Gnostic Gospels in 93 to see if it's a real thing. It is. In fact, you can see them in most pornos because, of course, a male and female, anyone can see that. But you even got hermaphrodites now, right? Who have both a penis and a vagina, right? Which the difference between that, right, is they're both. Okay, they're both either Jew or Gentile, on the female or female. But they're male and female. They're male and female. In one body. And guess who lost and controlled this? Constantine. Right. He did not like this idea of something being hermaphroditic in his God. Because he was raised a Roman soldier and a Roman emperor. And he would not want to bow down to a hermaphroditic deity, In fact, the reason the Greeks might have been so acceptable about it is they have a god called Hermaphroditus, as well, who has the upper body of a woman, but the penis of a man at the bottom with testicles. To use the medical term. I learned in school when I was getting my sex ed class. Also learned about wet dreams back in the day. And shipmates. And again, do you hump the pillow because you're trying to have sex with the woman in the missionary position or man? If you're carrying around pictures of women. Who do you think I'm thinking of? The women. But I'm not harassing you. I know we all masturbate and have wet dreams. And maybe I'm a little bit more okay with it than you. But I ain't got to let a man and hold my penis until I ejaculate. And give me what's called a hand job. To know, again, this is to help your children identify things so they don't go into prostitution. Because these are things they'll have to do. like with SVU. But there are certain things you do if you go into that profession. One of them is called a hand job. Now, your children can also, because some parents often reject their gay children, right? Especially if they're a religious Godhead type person or God complex type person, to not understand the whole of the Bible. Even if your children are the prodigal sons, gay or straight, Jew or Gentile, bond or free, male and female, black or white, we're all one in Christ Jesus, being that He's the real firstborn of every creature. Another thing is, was he married or not? They argue about. Well, Constantine read the story about the woman caught in that adultery. Him and the Orthodox got together in their little study hall and denied Jesus was the woman's husband. Because it's scandalous, two ways, two reasons, always two reasons, that Jesus' wife would cheat on him and he would just forgive her and say, go and sit down more. Well, see, they had a big problem with that. Yes, they did. The idea of forgiving your wife for being with another man, that was never Jesus' wife. That was some prostitute. Or some other man's wife. When with Joseph, guess what? He had the same problem with Mary getting pregnant before they were legally married too. But just say it wasn't you. To quote Shaggy there. It was Gabriel. Was Mary's story. Whatever that means. Though usually you have to have sex, but in Judaism, you couldn't have sex with a man. Like I told you, Isaiah talks about kings with female breasts in 60:16. And no one's really understanding what this means. They feel it. It also calls Jerusalem and refers to her as the mother. And the Lord himself said, as one whom his mother comforts, so will I, the Lord, comfort you like a mother comforts her child, right? Well, if you're a hermaphrodite, you're what? Father and mother. Father and mother. Mother and father, right? You're both. You're both. Not just metaphorically, literally. Literally. And see, that became the issue with Constantine. All right. I have to place myself under this crazy hermaphrodite, Jesus Christ. Right. I'm going to create a male trinity where there's the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. So you can't have the woman without the man or the man without the woman anyway. Right. Because guess who you're both? Yourself, your mother and father. That makes you two androgynous. Right. But the male is androgynous because he's seed impregnates the female. And he gives either a male sperm or a female sperm. The woman being the base or the earth, the lowest parts of the earth, David said, I was conceived in. Figure that one out. And John said, the two witnesses stand before the God of the earth, who is the God of heaven and earth. And I saw a throne with a light in front of it, and a cloud between me and the throne. And of course it was light, right? In front of the light. Like I was standing in front of the sun on the throne, but it wasn't the sun. It was something bioelectric. And that's all I can tell you about it, too. And that's what I told the Sunday school teacher, too. But again, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Nope. And that's the point too. I'm doing the same thing I did growing up, from when I came into consciousness, as we all do, when we're first here. Even Jesus, growing up in Nazareth, came to awareness he was the son of Mary, and his father was Joseph. And they were raising him in Nazareth after coming from Egypt, after going to Bethlehem for 2 years. And he was born in Bethlehem, and the angels of God, Jehovah's Witnesses, worshiped his birth in Luke chapter 2. Talk about beating a dead horse. And why can't you celebrate the birthday of Christ if the angels did? Uh-oh. Someone's mixing their doctrine with their personal feelings. Right? Right. Mm-hmm. Though, like I said, not every idea the Catholics did is necessarily right or wrong, but what you gotta determine is who you are to God. See, that's every man's path, and every woman's path, and every hermaphrodite's path on God's green earth, right? To determine your path on your own. Even in Stairway to Heaven, there's still time to change the road you're on. Yep. Always is. Always is. Though again, if you're a disabled veteran, you have very few choices, right? You even went into the Navy with a clean bill of health because you started having some sleeping problems during high school, and you're trying to make sure you can make it. And that won't become an issue on your ship. So they test you psychologically and neurologically and find you physically fit for naval duty and psychologically fit for naval duty. And the woman who saw me even worked with schizophrenics. I didn't see any sign of it during that time. And I've seen him for about 3 months. Almost about the same time I started going out to Christian Fellowship Church. But they had some camera crew from some television company, we didn't know at the time, by the way, going out and filming. And they were filming around, and Pastor Davis was letting them, much like Hezekiah with the Babylonians. Anyway, I defer. But anyway, that's when I started learning about the doctrine of the United Pentecostal movement. But he was also teaching something a little different than them, that you didn't have to speak in tongues or something to be saved, right? Which is a biggie in that particular religion. He also had some other things going on when it comes to unitship. In this area, he was being a little bit Jim Jonesy, in my opinion. First thing he'll do is talk about masturbation with you and ask you if you're comfortable with masturbation and tell you it's okay. Then, which I never had a problem with it, but I didn't even really have to ask, but I know what he means. So anyway, it goes on, and I go and ask Richard Brand about, hey, what does it mean to be a unit in this church? What do y'all teach on it? Well, he says, well, you don't have sex, and, we know that's a hard thing for some brothers, but we also offer you masturbation. Not quite like that, but anyway. Just trying to joke around about it. Anyway, he talks about how it works. And, well, we know you're, human still. And you might get a little lonely. Well, if you and another brother want to get down with your bad self, let's say, and jerk off together, we allow that. We allow that. Basically, yeah. Well, I'm like, okay. But then someone actually tries to do it with me, and I just politely decline. That's all I do. That's all you do. Someone about my age, a little bit older, but I'm saying, no, I'm alright. No, I'm alright. I'm good. So, again, I take my shower by myself. When he tries to take a shower with me, I'm like, okay, I'm good. That's all I have. That's all I have. They let it go. But then I start talking about the dream and telling him, hey, man, I've been reading the Bible. I think this has to do with the two witnesses, right? From Revelation. So, which is why I quoted you that passage about the two witnesses. Difference is, I'm in front of the heathen part, which is for the males. There should be two males at least who have the same dream, possibly. Mm-hmm. Now, the female is the earth, or the footstool. The God is the God of heaven and earth, and all power is given unto Jesus Christ in heaven and earth. And guess who's one in Christ Jesus? The male and female are one in Christ Jesus. Right. So, when the Bible, and John goes on, he talks of the olive tree and the candlestick. And in the beginning, he talks of 7 churches all throughout Asia and gives you the location of these churches. Right? But here's the point, though. In Isaiah, it talks of 7 women taking hold of 1 man, and as a counterpart, the scribes and Pharisees tell Jesus a parable about 7 men being with 1 woman. Right. And asked him in the resurrection whose wife of the 7 would she be. Like, that's a normal thing for even a woman in Israel to be with 7 brothers. So they all died somehow. And again, the woman was left alive herself. Well, the only place that happened is with Judah and Tamar. Where Judah was supposed to raise up seed to one of his sons who died unexpectedly. And the second son spilt his seed and died shortly after that instead of ejaculating inside of the female. The third son was his youngest son, and he didn't want none of that for him. So again, the woman was left childless. So what she did was she went to a town he frequented